big data. It's everywhere. It's in every corner of the business world. It's in healthcare. It's in our lives. And of course, it's been a big feature of the CentreCourt Specialized Masters Festival, with so many of the world's top business schools now offering a master's in business analytics, from MBB to big tech, from multinationals to big banks. This is one of the hot areas. And so it's a delight for me to welcome Sameen Haroon. Sameen is with BCG, so one of those MBB focused on data. Sameen did undergrad at Princeton. You studied international affairs, and briefly after Princeton, working on immigration cases. But then this passion for paid search, and I guess you joined BCG a couple of years before you then actually moved into the Goizetter Masters in Business Analytics program. So, Sameen, thank you very much for joining us. Big data, a passion for you?
Yes, thanks, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here. I would say problem solving is a passion for me, and I think in today's world, in order to be able to do that, a lot of the value and fun lies in teasing things out from rich data sets. And so the short answer is using big data to uncover insights is my passion.
Right. An MBB recruiter once said to me, we look for people skills. You're in front of clients. We look for humility, which was great to hear. But he said, we need to see that they have analytics skills. Now, you'd already begun a career with BCG on the back of your work in sort of digital marketing and paid search. Why then this idea to sort of deepen your skill sets, head back to business school at Goizetter and get this master's in business analytics?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think as you touched upon, my journey started in sort of the liberal arts space. It started with public and international affairs and immigration law, and I didn't necessarily have a very intense academic background in quantitative work. But then when I made that transition to business and I joined a small digital marketing firm in Dallas, I found myself working with numbers a lot, and I realized that I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And then when I took that over to BCG, of course, there's everything there happens at a wonderfully accelerated pace as well. And so I was learning a lot of things, and I was designing experiments and doing a lot of analytical work. And I realized that as much as I enjoyed it, there was a sort of a limit to what I could do on the side in terms of teaching myself, right? It was a lot of just applied work in the context of my casework. And so I decided that I wanted to take that time out to invest in really learning in the things that I was finding myself both enjoying, but also knew were incredibly relevant to my ability to be successful in the future as well. And so that's where I started looking at pursuing a graduate degree. And the ideal for me was always something that sat at the intersection of using numbers and data to find insights through analytics in the context of business, because a lot of the value, of course, comes from being able to tease out insights that are actually actionable and can be used to solve problems.
Right. Now, at a firm like BCG, of course, many of your colleagues might have taken the route of the MBA. What was it, that sort of specialized step in business analytics, and as perhaps you looked at both options, what really then led you to the masters at Goizetter?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did explore an MBA a lot for a while, because of course there's so much insight that comes from understanding how the business world works that an MBA provides. I think for me personally, the reason I ended up going with the MSBA, which is a wonderful blend of that business insight with working with data and technology, is because it's got that something extra where you actually learn sharp technical skills that are incredibly relevant for unlocking value in a business context. So I got to learn how to code in multiple programming languages, how to process big data, how to build machine learning models, and even work on facial recognition projects on the side as part of coursework. And I think that's quite unique in terms of things to learn in school. And for me, I both thoroughly enjoyed it and also knew that there's so much value for companies and industries, whether it's business or nonprofit, when it comes to being able to actually have that skill set as well. So.
And from data sets to facial recognition, as you look back, highlights of the program, or even perhaps an aspect of the program that you hadn't expected that proved to be a great discovery. Yeah,
I think that there's a lot there. So I'll say one of the things that I thoroughly enjoyed is the breadth of work that we got to do in the context of learning. Because one of the things is, as an MSBA in particular, and I think as an MSBA at a school like Emory, where you have the power and the prestige and the staff of the Goethe Business School behind you, you really get that intersection of working on solving problems in the context of a business application. So every single class we did, we had to come up with, find a public data set, find a corporation or a use case, and build an algorithm or solve a problem in the context of that. So you were constantly not just doing analytics, but you were making presentations and you were saying, here is why this analytics matters. Here's what I've learned from it, and here's how you go and use it out in the real world. And I think for me, transitioning from business back to academia, I hadn't necessarily been expecting that level of contextualization. And I think that was something that's both very unique and helpful about the program. And then on a related note, there were options in the latter half of the year when you sort of covered your foundations to take elective courses. And we got to do, depending on your interest, you could study sports analytics, or you could study marketing analytics, or one of the more unique and I would say interesting spaces, HR analytics. How do you think about people in an organization, and how do you, use something that one typically thinks of as qualitative and apply quantitative rigor to actually make everyone's lives better as an organization do. So I would say from that perspective, the learning and the context of the learning was definitely incredibly special. And the second piece of this, and I think this is where the hybrid between the MBA and the MSA or analytics degree comes into play as well, is the constant ability to collaborate and bounce ideas off of other folks in the program. Because the program actually brings together a very, very diverse set of backgrounds and experiences, from folks who've worked at on to folks who are straight from undergrad, from folks who are international to folks who've lived in Atlanta, gone to Emory there, for their undergrad and then transition. And in that context, a lot of my evenings were spent late nights working with my teammates, whiteboarding, figuring out how to solve fun problems. And I think that was, to some extent, you always expect to get that in an academic environment if you're in an MBA degree, but being able to do that while talking about code and sort of nerding out almost a little bit was incredibly special. And I actually think one of the reasons why I discovered that I wanted to go back to consulting, because it's team-based problem solving in that world as well.
From analytics and algorithms and those late nights whiteboarding, I mean, it's a personal journey too, in terms of, sort of holding up a mirror and things that you're learning about yourself. You've talked about the need to then, competently present. What do you feel that you learned about yourself beyond all of the skill sets you developed?
I think for me, a lot of it was figuring out the journey that I wanted my career to take. Because when I started the program, I think I had the sense that I've been doing a lot of marketing work. I was doing business and I really enjoyed analytics, but I didn't necessarily know if I wanted to be a data scientist, if I wanted to be someone that worked in tech, or if I wanted to be someone that sort of was a dedicated marketing person. And I think one of the things that the program did, but by exposing me to every different version of a business problem, like we looked at things in supply chain, we looked at things in pricing, we looked at things in marketing, we looked at things in HR, and there's a lot more there. I started realizing where my interests lay. And funnily enough, it ended up being that I was most passionate about marketing, and I was most passionate about analytics in the context of marketing, which is sort of why I ended up pursuing that line of work at BCG, which is what I do right now. So I think there's that element of discovery from a professional basis. And then on the personal side of things, I think, and this influences the professional choices too, right? It's learning how you work best and how you enjoy work best, and what kind of problems you like solving. And I think that's where, once again, that aspect of being able to work in a collaborative work environment and thriving while partnering with others and learning and growing from others has been something that was very special for me.
Right. Now, the return to BCG and investing in yourself and going back to grad school, it's not just coming straight out of the program. As you sort of project forward, 5-10 years from now, you know that you're in the right space. You love your work and even that sort of marketing focus. How do you think it will continue to support your career development?
That's a great question. So I think one of the things as I did figure out where I wanted to sit in from a career trajectory perspective is that the intersection of business and marketing and a space that's a bit more technical, like technology-based database or analytics. There's very few folks, I think, currently who can play in both worlds, so to speak, who can understand the language or where folks from an analytics background are coming from and know what a particular model is, but then also translate it to an executive and say, here's a so what, here's why it matters. And I think that that's something that the program has equipped me to do on an ongoing basis that will be valuable, is valuable to me right now, is going to continue to be valuable in 2 years, and will definitely help me 5 to 10 years from now as I hopefully want to take on more senior leadership roles in organizations as well.
You were in the second class at GOISER, graduating in 2019. I mean, the application volumes, the numbers are crazy. How many people are now looking at biz analytics in their future? So advice, if someone's about to step into that competitive application pool, what would you had you said yourself with your undergrad background, it wasn't all about quant and STEM. What would your advice be to any applicant?
So I would say, if you enjoy it, which I hope you would if you're looking to pursue the degree, don't be afraid to show it, and be honest and upfront about where you are and where you want to go and how the program is going to get you there. Because ultimately, what you're doing as with an MSc is getting the skills to do advanced data-driven problem solving, right? And I think that no matter where your starting point, if you're motivated and willing to learn, you can get there and do quite well, as I was fortunate enough to do. And so I would say bring that enthusiasm and that eagerness and that honesty, right, to your application process, and then you're going to find the place that's right for you.
Right. Well, thank you for bringing your enthusiasm and just that sense of, finding areas of work that you really love and how that translates both into what you then study and the career you can pursue with great passion. Sameen, thanks for joining us at CentreCourt. It was great hearing your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Matt.